Hello, hello, and welcome back. I'm so glad you're here. This Mind, Body, Soul Mastery podcast is a place where we explore what it really means to live with intention, to lead from the heart, and to walk through life with a deeper connection to mind, body, and soul. I'm going for alignment and wholeness. So, whether I'm sitting down with a guest or just sharing what I'm learning in real time, my hope is that you'll hear something that invites you back to yourself. So take a deep breath, grab your cup of tea or coffee or whatever it is, and let's drop into today's conversation. And so today I have with me Novalee Wilder. She's an actress and artist turned professional numerologist and writer. She's the host of the Numerology Podcast, and her entire life flipped in 2015 when she changed the name with when she changed her name with the help of numerology. This change brought in loads of inner work, focusing on love and self-love, which resulted in deeper connection with her spirituality, as well as finding the love of her life and winning the green card lottery by being able to stay and work in the US. I can't wait to hear about those things. So, Novalee, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Brenda. I'm really happy to be here.
Ah, so glad to have you here. I'm semi familiar with numerology and I find it fascinating. So, I'm looking forward to hearing a little bit more about that as you talk and share. And our listeners know we just dive right in. We just dive right into that moment in time, that pivotal moment that shifted something within you so deeply that your life began to change. So, Nova, can you go and take us to that moment and tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I think you said 2015, and that was when my name change happened, but it happened on like January 8th. So actually, everything happened in 2014. I was listening when you were talking. I was like, so in 2014, the end of 2014, I had moved from Denmark to the US. I was living in New York. I was going, like, I was full time at an acting school. It was a big shift for me, like not just like not that it was a new language, but like acting in a different language is a
Mm,
bigger thing than just ordering a coffee. Like
yes.
using your emotions and finding the right words and like the identity, like there's something that shifts, which is why we make fun sometimes of people's languages and cultures. Is like something shifts when you use a language what that is not your mother tongue. You are a slightly different person in a different language. Just as you are also sometimes a slightly different person if you live in a different city than where you grew up. You're a new person there. So I was definitely trying on a new person. And I was still having a lot of the same problems. And I had
Mm,
moved very far away. I had reinvented myself a little bit. And I just had this like feeling of still being incredibly stuck with a lot of things like mental issues, emotional issues, stuff with my body and my body image, how I felt about relationships, like the list goes on. It was long. And then I had a friend who changed her name with the help of numerology. And at that point, like I had tried the gluten-free and the crystals and the mantras and the meditations. And I was like, oh, is this the next thing on the list of like things we are trying out to see if it works or helps? Um, and so I went to a numerologist. Sometimes when I think about it now, even though I do it for people, like I do name changes for people, I think it's such a intense and slightly crazy thing to do to see a numerologist with the intention of maybe changing your name. I saw a numerologist. She was scarily accurate. It was a very uncomfortable session. She knew things about me that I was like, I don't like that you know this about me based on my
mm,
numbers. I don't actually want to hear it. And now, as a numerologist, sometimes I'm like, there are things I don't need to tell my client that I can see. I'm like, we don't need to go
yeah.
there. But maybe I needed that. Maybe I needed that proof. So I decided to change my name. Um, and my name change went through on like January 8th. And I can explain a lot of things from like a numerology standpoint about like getting more supportive name vibrations and like being supported in who I was supposed to be, or like maybe some of the gifts that I like being seen clearly, being like one of the things I do as a numerologist is I feel like I tell people the myth of themselves because we all need sometimes to be seen almost like a as a mythical person or as like a hero or something that really truly is larger than life. And so I really did step into, I didn't know that, but I stepped into like the myth of myself through this name change. And something that also happened was that I started looking at myself, expecting myself to be better, which is kind of an interesting thing that they also know about, like it's a science thing, right? That like particles that are observed behave differently than particles that are not observed. It's the same with humans. Sometimes when we're watched by others or by ourselves in a different way, we suddenly have the opportunity to behave differently. And
So it
so,
was so it was after your name change, that's how
yeah,
you began to see yourself differently.
yeah,
So can you just give me before your name change, just talk about how you felt and then go right into after the name change, what you began to notice.
yeah. So I felt ugly. That's an interesting, it's just a very, I felt very ugly. And I felt ugly, not like, okay, maybe I didn't felt so pretty on a physical level, but like emotionally, I was like, I don't want to be in a relationship because relationships make people ugly. Like
Mm,
they are, I had been through some like pretty dysfunctional patterns, both in my upbringing and in my relationships. And I was like, we're just not doing that because everything turns ugly. And I bring the ugly out of people and they bring the ugly out of me.
mm,
And so I don't really even want to do that. So like even something like getting into a relationship was like really, really far away. I was like, it's not what I'm doing. I'm doing this acting thing. I'm doing it full time. Like spend a lot of money on it. Like we're not getting distracted by boys or girls. We're just
yeah.
focusing. Um, and then the first, like one of the very first things that happened after my name change was that I was standing in like my local supermarket and I was looking at all these 7-day candles, like the candles that come in like a glass container. And I just had this impulse to buy a bunch of them. And I was like, okay, bought a bunch of them, came home, and I sat down. And I really truly can't tell you where this impulse came from. But I sat kind of with love and like relationships, and I made this long laundry list of what love is not.
Mm,
And I even like later wrote like a blog post about it because it was a very profound thing to like sit and list all the ways that I had been treated or I had treated other people under like the guise of love and being like, oh, this is what love is, or this is what happens when
mm-hmm.
people love each other. Or like sometimes, when people are passionate, they become mean.
Yes,
Or
yes.
yeah, it was a deep hole. And then I sat with that long list and I was like, what would the opposite be of all these things, this very long list? And I wrote all these opposite things on this first candle. So like, if love was or used to be abusive, then now it was healing. And
Mm,
if love used to be self-sacrificing, now it was like helpful from others. Or like there was a
yeah.
lot. Like I really rewrote and I wrote everything on these 7-day candles and I burned them. And once one burned down, I just did the same thing again. I sat down again and was like, is there more? And then this is like describing the ritual of what I did, but like in
Yeah.
this process of like really sitting with some of the very deep patterns I had in my psyche, I made the opposite possible. And so, I mean, within 3 weeks, I had kind of fallen in love with this guy from my class, and I was like, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are we doing? We are not doing this. And I was like,
So
I'm
you
gonna,
still had some of the old
yeah, yeah,
threads,
because like that's the
even though the
thing.
new change was coming through.
Yeah, I mean, you rewire something and then you test it,
Yeah.
right? You don't have proof yet. You might have thoughts. You might have different new emotional, like My body was different, my mind was different, my emotions were different, but I was not like blind to the past. Like I didn't really have proof. So like in my interactions with this guy, because he was so kind, and I could tell I was like, I don't know
Mm,
if I can trust this. He is so kind, and he is
mm,
so sensitive, and he is so willing to bare his heart. And he is like, it cringes me because it's hard for me to be so open, and he's so open. And like the thing I say I want, which is love, is open. This person is, but can I allow it? Because I feel like that's
mm.
usually the next step of these things is like, can I allow
Yeah.
the thing I want? Can I allow it? Like I say
And
I want it, but then can I allow myself to have it? Or do I
so
push it
then would it
away?
be kind of like, can I allow myself and then can I accept it? Would that
Yeah.
be kind of the next step?
Yeah. And I mean, can it be better than what I thought it would be? That's also what I
Yeah.
would say. I mean, spoiler alert, this man is now my husband. I knew the first time I kissed him, I was like, shit, I need to marry him. It's like, oh no. And I was like,
Uh-huh.
marry him? Like, I don't even know if I believe in marriage. Like, we have to also like place me on
Yes.
the cynic scale. And I was pretty
Yeah.
far down, like or up high, whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
Like, so that was really like, we can talk about manifestation all we want. But it's not just about like them showing up. It's what you do with them once they're there.
Right. Right. Right.
Um,
Right.
and he is forever showing me, how good it can be, or just how kind, which is really something I've truly realized about women. And I do think it's like all women. We need a lot of safety
Yeah.
in our
Yeah.
relationships to really trust. And you really need to trust your partner with your emotions and your craziness and your irrationality and your like that thing about men being containers and women being like the fluid or the water inside. Like sometimes that is true. That you
Yeah.
really need that. And I had not experienced or seen that before. So like that
Yeah.
was like I would say that like that change was worth the price of admission of that name change. Like the shifts in love and what I now consider to be luck, which is such a like weird word because we all dismiss it. We're
Right.
like, well, it's just luck. Instead of thinking, well, it's luck. I mean, if I had more of that, then things would be different. Because I think we don't really believe in luck, but we also believe that we're unlucky.
Yes.
And I'm like,
Yes.
well, this could
And
maybe.
that's a hard one. You can't be both.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't believe in luck, then you also can't be unlucky. You just have to be neutral. You just have to be neutrally like not good, not bad, just neutral. But most people
Yeah.
think that they are unlucky in certain
Yeah.
areas, and I would also have described myself as like unlucky in love, and I have disproven that. Like I am incredibly lucky in love, which makes me go, I wonder what other things I could
Yes.
be lucky in. Yeah.
And I want to go there, but I want to go back to,
Yes.
because I'm still just kind of like fascinated, trying to understand, because to me, I don't think I've ever heard of anyone who changed their name,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And so to me, I want to go back to trying to understand why the extreme of a name change.
Yeah. So, okay, many things to say. As someone who works with people who change their name, I feel like I've heard every single version of a story of like, why was I named this? Why do I maybe not like it? Or why do I need a fresh start? Or why do I feel like there's something in my name maybe holding me back? Or like, whatever you say. Like, I
Yeah.
just see it like
Yeah.
on some level, if there's something crunchy in your name, I think on some level your soul is saying, we need to
Mm.
pick from a different menu. We've gone through this lesson. Names are truly lessons or truly filters. They truly are like, which is also why people have so many emotions around name changes. Because, like, again, kind of like lucky or unlucky, and what do you believe in? Like, If names were not important, we wouldn't care. We'd be like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
sure. What do you want to be today? I don't care. But we have layers like lineage and ancestry and ownership and patriarchy and like there's so much stuff in names. And so there's so much also like if I was talking acting, I would say there's a lot of character choice where like
Hmm.
certain names and certain characters can do certain things, other names and other characters cannot do those
Hmm.
things. Like we are divided, and sometimes we gender things as well. So sometimes when we've grown up with a name and it's been said by our family, and maybe we have a difficult relationship to our family, or it's been shortened in certain ways. Like I've had that too, where people have long, beautiful names, and Americans love to shorten names. Jennifer's or Jen or Jenny, and like Alexander's or Alex and stuff like that. So like
Yep.
they haven't fully, like lots of people don't actually use their full names. They use like little snippets of them and also have like weird tendencies of like how it's supposed to be spelled. Like I'm a Megan with a double N or I'm a Megan with an H or like there can be really things where like, oh, you're that kind of person. Like we really have, there's a
Yeah.
lot of culture and identity around names and getting to name yourself is such a like empowering thing to do
Hmm.
because we do choose a lot of things in life. We hopefully choose our jobs and our partners and where we live and like what kind of job we do and like how many kids we want or not want or how many pets. Um, and there's something about that name being constant, and you are only allowed to change it if you maybe get married if you're a woman. And it's also weird if a man changes his name once he get married, like with taking a
Yeah.
woman's name. Like I don't know if you can hear it, but like there's all these
Yes.
like
Oh, yeah.
patterns around
Yes.
it. And so even if it's a small change, something shifts in our mind when we are allowed to be called something else. And new names don't really come with a ton of baggage. Clearly, they are new. And people often, like sometimes people tell me, like, oh, if I go to a numerologist, I have to be named something crazy or something out there. And I always say, like I give name lists to people. Like there will be like 200 names that have like the same energy, but they will be different names. So if you pick Galadriel from this list, then you picked Galadriel instead of something else. Or like I shared with someone else that like Karen and Avalon have the same energetic imprint. But if you are a Karen, you are different in people's mind than if you are an Avalon or something like that. So there's also that thing of
Yes.
like people can step into a new version of themselves or try a new version
Mm.
on.
Mm.
And it's also like it's normal in a bunch of cultures actually that like there is like a rite of passage, maybe between child and adult or child and like teenager or maybe later in life too. And a lot of our last names too are from a time where you would um, the name would only be tied to you if you had a certain profession. Like all the
Mm.
Smiths, they are not Smiths today, but they're all named Smith. Where like maybe something like um, I don't know, STEM or like we don't name our professions anymore. We don't carry them because our professions change so fast or like our
Right.
jobs change. But like that would be like the old version would be like you would carry a last name or moniker like that just tied to what you did when you did it, and then you would let it go.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Thank you for that little,
Side
because
note, yeah.
as you explained it, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I can see. I mean, it made sense as you explained it. So
Yeah.
thank you. So I want to go back to, so you made this name change. You talked a little bit about that process where you began to kind of let go and shed around the love part, right? But talk to me a little bit, like what was going on in your mind after you made the name change? And then I would like to know, um, what you were feeling in your body around that,
Mm,
and then how your soul was guiding you.
yeah. So first I was like, so what now? I was like, okay, it did that. So what now? Like, what are we doing? What's happening? And there was a lot of like what I feel like now is like observation of just like, okay, I'm looking at you. Are you doing anything different? Are you thinking anything different? Are you making any kind of
Mm,
different choices? Which also I think is like a nice little, like a lot of things we just do on autopilot, that like
mm,
little focus on like, you have a choice here. What do you put in your basket at the supermarket? What do you do when a friend reaches out that you know that all they want to do is kind of like shit talk to people in their life? Do you meet up with them? Or do you choose to do something else in this moment?
mhm,
Like there was like that little break was happening. And then, I fell in love with this guy and I it extended definitely also to my acting too, where I was like, I remember my teacher at some point turned around to the class and was like, "You guys are so hard on yourself. Could you please, just for my sake, be on your own side for like a week or two or 3 months or like just what would happen? Give yourself a little time of like just being on your own side. So like, because I can't hype you up all the time. Like you got to believe yourself." And so I definitely also, I mean, this was not the only input I had with that thing. Like, what would happen if I was like on my own team?
mm. If you
I
were
mean,
for you.
yeah. And I also lost weight in that period of time. And like now I can definitely also see that there was something about like, what am I focused on? How do I fuel for that? Instead of like, when is the next time I can eat? And how much can I eat? And how much of whatever sweets can I eat? Or like whatever. Like it being like more of being like, there's certain things I want to do. I want to do them really well. How could I fuel myself? And also like really paying attention to my body. That was like a definitely like, what do you need? And can I give it to you like on the long term? Not just like when we have a hunger cue and we're like, I'm hungry, I will eat whatever is in front of me, but more being like, kind of like a toddler. When a toddler's like, I'm not hungry, I just want to leave. And you're like, okay, you need an apple. Like you need an apple in your bag or something. Like we're not doing a like I'm not sending you out into the world with no breakfast and expecting to pick up a happy child. Like at the end of whatever child activity you have. Like I was like being a lot more like, I know you get hangry. What can we do? What could you eat? Like what could like I started to plan a little bit more for the life I was actually living instead of just letting it hit me in the face every day, which I
Mm,
feel like
mm,
sometimes just
mm.
happens. And I mean like, I went through a weight loss phase there too, which also I think like I felt a lot more safe in my body, not just because of
Was
this relationship, but like that, I think a lot of things, a lot of actions gave my body cues of safety. And because my body got cues of safety, like I felt like I had more bandwidth for other things. Like I also got like, I mean, I actually think that like that whole thing sitting with love, which is what I say, what I did with the 7 day candles, that was definitely also like a intuitive and spiritual
mhm,
download or moment
mhm.
that I not just did, but that kept up. I don't know how many candles I burned. A lot of candles. And they're 7 day candles. So while they don't actually last 7 days, they do last a little while. Yeah.
So was losing the weight, was that something you started before you went to the numerologist, the
No,
name change, or is that something you
no. That
started
was
after?
that was a lot of like of I mean, overall, when I decided to move to the US and pursue this acting thing, and because it was like a 2 year program, and with the visa I had, there was no like, you can't stay in the US. Like, you can do this program, you gotta go home. So I was like, we're not wasting this. We're not wasting the amount of money. We're not wasting that I had to like take out a loan in my apartment in Denmark. We're freaking not wasting it. So this approach of also like, I mean, at that point, I drank very sparingly, but I was like, I don't really have time to
Mm,
be hungover. And there are also certain things that I know if I eat them, I feel like shit, or I wake up with puffy eyes. So like, let's just not do that.
So is an intentional choices because you weren't going to, because of this program, and you weren't going to waste your time. You were
Yeah,
going to give
but it
it
got a
your
lot
best.
stronger. Yeah, I will
Yeah.
say it got a lot stronger when I kind of had that moment of like the pause of like, I mean, everything is a choice. Everything you get offered is
Yeah.
a choice. When you get into a grocery shop, when a friend asks you if you want to do this thing or that thing, if you get added to a WhatsApp group and you're like, do I have mental capacity for the amount of messages that are going to be in this WhatsApp group? Or like, I got very selective because I got very clear. And that
Yeah.
clarity definitely came from being like, well, who am I now? And what does she do with the things that get thrown? Like I became the person who like religiously listened to like meditations before bed. Like the person who left her yoga mat out on the floor because she knew that was that one thing that just taking the yoga mat out was sometimes like the thing that made me not do the yoga because it's like, oh God. And so like
Well, I'm laughing because
removing,
I'm feel
yeah,
ya.
yeah, removing barriers to just getting started is so much easier than like I'm trying to keep momentum. I'm like, just remove a barrier, remove a barrier, remove a barrier. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, in that way, I felt like my name changed. I mean, and that's the thing, nothing else changed but this name, which is also why I can say that like some of those things, some of those patterns, some of those mental constellations of ugliness that were in my head, I was like bitter about a lot of things and sad about a lot of things. And I will not say that like 100% was due to the name change, but like a huge thing was that
Yeah.
moment of like, well, I'm not the same person. I'm literally named something different. Who is she?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was your soul's guiding you in this up to this, in the process of going to the numerologist, learning about the name change, then making the decision to do it? What was your soul guiding you?
There was an aspect, it's funny, I brought up the like, I don't think I've described it as like being ugly before, but that definitely was like an element of it. Like my soul was very focused, or like there was a whole thing about beauty in my life, and beauty not just in like what things look like or what you like, but what I would call like alignment, like authenticity. Authenticity is beautiful. I saw a post the other day, sorry, side note, that said like the most exquisite and beautiful thing about you is tied to something about you that you probably deeply hate.
Mm,
And I
I
was
think
like,
there's a lot of truth in
there's
that. Yep.
there's something there. So like the alignment part was that it was okay to do things just because they were in alignment, which is, I think, like sometimes we're like, oh, but can you explain it? There was a bunch. I mean, I'm spending a lot of time in podcasts explaining my name change. On some level, I still can't really understand that I did it, but I did it and I do it, or like I do it all the time. I help people name their babies and stuff like that. So like I spend a lot of time with the potential of like a name change and what names do and
Mm-hmm.
what they
Mm-hmm.
hold and the idea
Mm-hmm.
and like being part of someone's story about their name is also like a big responsibility. So like I felt like my soul and my intuition and really my higher self was like, do it for the beauty of it. Do it because it's
Mm.
beautiful. And I remember someone asked me about my name change that year, 2015. And I was trying to explain, and he was like, oh, I think I get it. You did it because it was beautiful. And I was like, oh, yeah. At the time, I couldn't say that.
Mm.
I think I needed more reason. But what he was saying also, like with the beauty, was like, because it felt like an alignment. It felt like it felt like you wanted to do it. And now you're like, oh, I have to come up with a reason that makes sense to you. But like, because I wanted to do it. And that like truly is also what I tell people. I'm like, I don't care what your
Yeah.
reason is. You're very
Yeah.
valid for just coming and wanting to change something. And that goes for all the things. As long as it doesn't hurt anyone else, And even if it hurts someone's feelings, then it's
Yeah.
valid just to want to change it because you want to change
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Novalee, what would you say that you've learned most about you through this process? And like what you've learned most about you through this, but then who you became because of it.
Mm. Um, I think I thought I was unlovable, which sounds very harsh. I think I thought I was not lucky and not lovable, at least not in a way that would feel good, because love doesn't feel good, or at least what
It
love was at
didn't
the
feel good.
time didn't
Yep.
feel good.
Yep.
Now I'm like, oh, but that wasn't love, so that makes sense that it didn't feel good. Now I know what love is, so I'm like, okay, I know I'm lovable. I know what love is, and it feels good. Um, and I just learned that like you are not at any point set in stone. Like I did this nervous system certification just recently, but like the self is meant to die again and again and again and again. It's supposed to, for the first many years of your life, to build. We're supposed to become someone. But then once we are that someone, we're supposed to die over and over again and like realize that you are allowed to change your mind. You're allowed to change your standpoint. You're allowed to change your politics. We have this whole cancel culture. Don't get me started on it. Like you're allowed to change. And I was allowed to change. And I'm allowed to change my mind again. And the idea of like having to stay the same or having to stay stuck or be happy with whatever little scrap you have that you think is love or you think it's valuable, you think it's an identity. And I'm like, just like allow yourself to like dissolve that. You won't die, but yourself has like
Yeah.
not supposed to stay the same. We're really just truly
Yeah.
not.
Right. Well, that's growth, right? I mean,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I
Very
believe
basic.
that our souls having this human experience, we're here to evolve our soul. Our soul is
Mm,
here to learn and experience, and we're here to evolve. So I agree with you. We are not meant to stay the same. And many times it's so easy to get stuck in that comfort zone. This is who I am. This is what I do. Da 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 da. And because I've been there, I've done that. I mean, that's who I was. Yeah, like what you did, going through and changing your name, leaning in, feeling into that, opened up so many more possibilities.
yeah. And also like by claiming a new name, I think about it when I just to like wrap up a thing from the very beginning, like uh you can't win the green card if you don't enter the lottery. So like if I hadn't entered and also my husband won it. So like we were dating at the time. I told him, "Hey, you should play the green card lottery." He did. He won it. And then we had the conversation. We're like, "Well, better get married then." It's like and to me it's like grabbing the thing that might feel a little like out of reach or crazy or whatever. Like I thought about that when I was starting my numerology business and I put writer as part of my tagline or bio or whatever because it's like I write all the time, all these blog posts, all these things. Like I write so much. And then like when an editor reached out and was like, hey, so you're a writer and a numerologist. I need someone to write a book about numerology. Would you be interested? First, I was like, that's crazy. This must be a scam. Are you nuts? And then I was like, wait a minute. I am a writer. I am a numerologist. You want me to write a book about numerology? Yeah, sure. I don't know how to do that, but let's just do that. But like again, the identity of like claiming who you want to be doesn't have to
Yes.
be like 15 steps ahead. It can just be the next step. And then you observe what would this person then do? If Novalee was
Yes.
a writer and she wrote a book, what would that book look like? Hmm. Yeah. So like, yeah, that part of it.
That sounded like a very beautiful exploration.
Yeah.
Learning
Yeah.
as you went,
Yeah,
right?
because also like, I mean, You can prep in school, but life is different. And life is a lot of like just winging it or figuring out while you do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And going with the flow, kind of
Yes.
like
And
accepting what
not fighting
comes.
the flow. If there is a flow, don't fight
Right.
it. Like if
Right.
someone opens a door, don't be like, that door, I don't know. It's a door, it's open, let's just see it. You know,
Yeah.
walking
Yeah.
backwards is always an opportunity. But going forwards is such a, I mean, you're so lucky if the door is open. Like that's one of the things I have with this business. I'm like, every time a door opens, that's probably luck. Since I'm a lucky person, I should probably continue through that door. Don't really believe in unlucky doors. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, beautifully said. So last question, Novalee.
Yes.
So if someone is sitting in a similar moment, just kind of that uncertain, uncomfortable, or unclear, kind of where you found yourself at the beginning, what would you say to them from your own experience?
Well, I would say if a name change is not calling your name, I would say take inventory of the identities you hold right now. And you might not be able to like look at all of them. And some of them will be subconscious. We talked about this before recording, but like sometimes the idea you have of yourself is like a subconscious idea that could take a while to uncover. But like, see if any of the identities you hold very closely right now is actually standing in the way of the person you want to become. And see if you could maybe hold that identity a little less closely. Find proof of the opposite, whatever it is you want to become.
Oh, I like that. Find
Yeah.
proof of the opposite.
Yeah, because also like you just need like a lot of people think in like absolutes, like I need to be 100% sure. And I'm like, you just need to be like um 51% more sure of the new thing. Like you just need the thing to tip a little bit. You just need a
Right.
little more
Right.
proof. Like it's like,
Right.
yeah, I'm gonna
Yeah.
use the weight loss experience. Like you can't really control the scale, you can only control your plate. So like, can you put something on the plate that would prove that you're on this weight loss scale? Not putting anything on the plate would not work here, I will say. Like, never,
Yeah.
never, never just remove things, add things instead. So to me, that would also be like, add something that feeds or fuels or defines the identity of who you want to become. Instead of thinking, oh, I have to remove all, yeah, sure, remove barriers. I'm like all over the place right now, but but like don't like because we have a tendency to just shrink. Like we're trying, like I'm trying not to be this person. Who cares who you are right now? Who are you trying to become? Add
Yeah.
to that person. Because the opposite just feels so like restrictive and you're down on yourself and you're negative and yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I would say.
Oh, so good. So good.
Such good questions.
Oh, well, thank you. I've learned so much, and you've intrigued me even more to go back to my book and my reading, my chart, numerology chart, and just
Mm-mm.
take a read and be remembered, be reminded of what was said to me, because I think that was done, oh, probably 5 years ago, and I was
Mm.
very much newbie into this spiritual and hadn't really um, gotten grounded and centered in it,
Yeah.
right?
Well, if it was a
So,
good I mean, I have readings
yeah.
that I listened to from 2015 and 2016 where I'm like, here we go again. I need this one more
Yep.
time.
Yep.
Because
Yep.
if it's a good reading and it's probably timeless in
Yes.
some
Yes.
version.
But sometimes you just need to go back and be reminded of it, right?
Yes. The myth of
Yeah.
you. Like the myth of
Yeah.
you. Like that's good. It's
Yeah.
good sometimes to be like, ooh,
I had something I was going to add and it just popped back in my mind when you
sure.
talked about the to our listeners, to just the identities of you. One of the things that popped in my brain was if you have a few close friends, simply asking them, how do you see me? How do
Yeah.
you or what is my authentic gift that you notice? And allow that reflection back to you, because I had to do that once because I couldn't see myself as people described me or when they talked about me. So I had to go back to a couple of friends and just ask close trusted friends that I knew I would be safe with asking. And their reflection back to me, and because the reflection was so similar amongst the 4 or 5 people I asked, that
Mm,
was enough for me to be able to go, okay, that really is truly who I am. And it was easier, that's kind of that proof that you were talking about, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Was being able to then, my body was then able to hold on to that truth, that identity, that revelation about me. And I could do my thing, my rituals or my work, whatever needed to be done in order to fully embody and begin to own that. So
Mm.
you
Yeah,
got to have safe, trusted friends.
yeah. Well, the thing about like, I pulled a card from this deck with my husband the other day, and this deck is it's a relationship deck. And so it's either very kind questions or very probing questions. And the question was like,
Mm,
what in your opinion is the thing that holds me back?
mm,
And I think sometimes we're afraid of asking that question because we're afraid of hearing something truly negative
yeah,
about ourselves. We're like, oh, you're going to call out like all my shitty things. And what often happens if you're doing this with a kind person who actually sees you is they're going to be like, this is where you don't show up for yourself. Like, this is where you don't believe in your, like, they're not going to say, it's because you're really bad at this one thing.
right.
They're usually going to say, actually, I think the thing you want is not very far out of reach, but you stop yourself,
Yeah,
or you don't identify with the version of you that could do it,
yeah,
or you don't claim your expertise, or you keep thinking you need another course or another book or another thing. And like you keep yourself in the student. I say this to my clients all the time. Like sometimes like the life lesson is to go from student to master. Which part of this journey do you think you spend enough time in? The answer is not
well, it's
another
hard
book.
to claim that word, that name of
It
master,
is,
like
but
it
it's like that
is.
thing you are allowed to teach what you are still learning. And if
Yes,
it's truly
yes,
worth teaching, you will probably be learning it for the rest of your life. Or if it's a truly
absolutely.
valuable field, it's not something you master in an afternoon or even 10,000 hours. It's something that you will keep finding like depth and growth in over time as you grow.
Yep.
So, yeah,
Completely. Mind, body, soul mastery. It is
yes,
the lifelong journey. So I totally, totally get it. I love that. I
yes.
love that. So again, this has been truly a fascinating conversation. Thank you, Novalee, so much for joining me.
I mean, it was my pleasure. Great questions. Love taking
Yes.
this journey into it.
Yes, it was fabulous. And definitely my intention is always to provide hope and inspiration, and to just this invitation to our listeners to just remember your truth, to trust your path, and to awaken that power within you. And I'm going to trust and believe that some of the gold nuggets that were dropped here today is going to do exactly that for all those who listening. So, if this conversation stirred something within you, I just invite you to take a moment and pause and ask and reflect. What did I hear that was for me? What is it that I needed to hear today? Write it down. And if ponder it, mull on it, let your mind ruminate on it. And what small action step could you take to move toward that or move closer to that? Journal about it, share with a friend. There's so much power in conversation. So you'll be able to find all the links to Novalee in the show notes. And until next time, keep leaning into your truth and honoring your journey. This is Brenda Stott Tomlinson, and you're listening to Mind, Body, Soul Mastery.